Do you think C-section babies should be supplemented, and if so, for how long?
This question was made to Dr. Walker, which is one of the, he works in Massachusetts. The answer was, when my grandchild was going to be born by C-section, I ran, I got the lactobacillus and gave it to the lactobacillus. Probably it should.
From all what you've heard today, and from all what I honestly believe, the answer would be yes, one should. The effects are there. We know that there is an increased risk for asthma, IgE-mediated allergy, allergic rhinoconjunctivitis, apparently also diabetes, immune diseases from cesarean. The odds ratios are around 1.2, 1.3 in meta-analysis. So, yes, colonization seems to be reasonable. With a modest effect. But then you have to see what's the potential downside. And the downside, I think that we have been saying to giving to healthy babies is very, very low. Nothing is zero when it comes to risks, but we are talking fairly close to zero. And these are normal bacteria that we have been, through evolution for millions of years, been exposed to. So they are apparently essential to us. And with that in mind, a very low downside and this risk for these diseases with cesarean section, even if it's only modestly increased. My conclusion, personal as a doctor, would be I would give my grandchildren that.
The one thing that we had to think is that the rate of C-sections is increasing in the entire world and in the States a lot. And as more increase in C-section, more voices are being working in, and we are seeing more the side effects of the C-section, and not only in terms of the morbidity, immediate maternal morbidity in the infant and the mom, but there are more and more publications and studies showing high risk for colonization, infections, and many other things. So I'm sure that in a few years we are going to see some recommendations about, first will be to decrease the rate of C-section, but then in the ones that need the C-section anyway, to use something.
The C-section is increasing so much. The WHO is apparently saying that something around 15% sounds reasonable from a mother-baby health. And we are approaching 20% in Sweden and trying to get it down. And I think that you are something around 30. I was in Asia, I was in China 2 months ago. And believe it or not, we are talking 70% in some of the cities there. And with that in mind, and studies from Finland showing that the effect of probiotics was particularly obvious in those who were born by cesarean sections, and would actually strengthen the argument of seriously considering it.
My question's related to hospital diarrhea. And, clearly lots of kids who have been to the hospital end up on antibiotics, get antibiotic-associated diarrhea, get C. diff, as well as transfer of viral gastroenteritis from other patients through nurses, physicians, believe it or not, to the other patients. And I know there's an older study by some Dr. Saavedra or somebody showing decreased incidence of hospital-associated diarrhea with probiotics. And I'm just wondering which probiotics would you utilize? Should we be utilizing this in all hospitalized children? If so, which probiotic, and what's the cost-benefit analysis?
It's the same bacteria that we talked about before, L. rhamnosus GG, B. lactis, strain BB12, and L. reuteri, the ones that have had the best data for that purpose. There's a couple of others with less data, but those are the best ones that, from point of view of diarrhea, we have, we've utilized. There are no good, in fact, there are no half-good cost-benefit analyses related to this. And this goes back to what one of the comments we were making before, that when you use things as an add-on to the diet rather than part of the regular supplementation, and you're doing it for a particular reason, that makes sense if you're doing it for a discrete period of time. And I think colic is a very good example. You have an issue, you have a potential solution, you utilize it for a period of time. But when we're talking about reduction of incidence of diarrhea, when we're talking about about prevention of atopic disease, when we're talking about prevention of necrotizing enterocolitis, given what we know today about the safety, even though, and there's no doubt, and we can talk more about the fact that there's been a couple of lactobacillemias well documented, including some infections associated to Lactobacillus rhamnosus, for example, which is well documented. Compared to the amount that we use is extremely small, and fortunately it's also easy to treat. We don't have good evidence of Lactobacilli reuteri infections, and we have even less any evidence of bifidobacteria infections that have actually are not treatable. So given that, and given the safety issues that we talked about, as well as the potential benefits, we're talking about, you know, this prophylactic use being truly of potential benefit when you're talking diarrhea, when you're talking allergy. And when you're talking necrotizing enterocolitis, you know, most of my patients are short bowel syndrome patients. You know, by 18 years of age, we're talking about $5 million per subject that has been used in healthcare dollars. You know, if we could prevent 1 out of 20, 30, or even 50, you know, we'd be saving our taxpayers a lot of money.
I was going to say, I think that the study that, in addition to what Pepe was saying, that I think that the number needed to treat to prevent 1 case of antibiotic-induced diarrhea seems to be in the neighborhood around 8. But I would like to ask Teresa, because I've seen a figure in the meta-analysis that to prevent 1 case of necrotizing enterocolitis, death was a question of treating around 30.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the number, but I think it's like between 30 and 40, which is very impressive. And what Dr. Saavedra said, because he follows the one that survive, but many of them die. I think that the prophylaxis, I mean, the problem with the prophylaxis for necrotizing enterocolitis is the population. Is the incidence of necrotizing enterocolitis is 10% in babies under 1 kilo. And so those are the babies who everybody's a little bit, I mean, they haven't been tested yet. But those are the population that we should target on thinking on prophylaxis of necrotizing enterocolitis. And I mean, there are a couple of studies being done outside the States, and they are enrolling like thousands of babies to try to prove that really one of them is being done with Reuteri, that it will have an impact on necrotizing enterocolitis and probably sepsis too.
Well, I think any last comments? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. And I want to thank our panel and thank everyone who stayed for the questions. I think it was an informative program, and our panel will stay behind, I think, to answer questions. Thank you.